lonely, disconnected, hopeless. These are just some of the negative emotions so many students have experienced during the last few months. My name is Shelby Cree, and I've been a certified peer health educator with Bronco Fit for 3 years now. I'm also a member of a sorority here on campus and actually just finished up my time in a year-long leadership position on the organization's executive board. According to numbers pulled from Boise State Student Involvement and Leadership Center, calculated with numbers from Data USA's page on Boise State statistics, roughly 15% of full-time students at this university are members of Greek organizations. Greek Life has adapted to provide a sense of social wellness to its students, but the spirit of its members is hurting in these unprecedented times. This spotlight will focus on Interfraternal Council and Panhellenic Council Greek Life during this global pandemic. To really analyze this topic, we're going to break it down into 4 areas of focus here. First, we're going to talk about what social wellness is and why it's so important to our health. Then we can look at how Greek Life impacts the social wellness of its members. Next, I will show you what these organizations have done to adapt to a COVID-19 world, and we'll finish with those adaptations and how they've affected students in these fraternities and sororities. So for starters, what is social wellness and why is it so important? In order to fully understand this, we need to talk about the wellness wheel here and what it's depicting. The Office of Bronco Fit recognizes that it takes a balance between all 8 of these dimensions of wellness in order to live a whole, healthy, and fulfilling life. According to a video from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA for short, improving wellness by taking action on each of these dimensions addresses early mortality from treatable and preventable conditions. In other words, each of these dimensions is equally essential to our health. Now, looking specifically at social well-being, according to that same SAMHSA video I referenced just a second ago, social wellness gives us a sense of belonging and a reliable support system, which help during difficult times like these. Not only does social wellness improve our mental health, it also improves our physical health. In a study at Brigham Young University, results showed that the influence of social relationships on risk for mortality is comparable with well-established risk factors for mortality. Now that you have a better understanding of why social wellness is important to your overall health and well-being, let's take a look at how Greek Life positively impacts the social wellness of its members. So for starters, Greek Life provides to its members almost daily social connection. Just like the recommended 30 minutes of exercise per day to satisfy some basics of physical wellness and maintaining a realistic budget month to month for financial wellness, the social dimension suggests we need to have, at the very least, 1 social interaction or connection per day. Greek organizations give their members an opportunity to interact with one another almost daily. There are brotherhoods, sisterhoods, and socials, which are all events organized by the fraternities and sororities for members to do some activity together, such as line dancing, picking pumpkins at the pumpkin patch, or even a big viewing and debriefing of The Bachelor, just to name a few activities organized by my own sorority that I've personally been to. Of course, those events aren't happening every single day. On the days an event is not happening, there are loads of other social interactions that Boise State's Greek community promotes. There are so many networking opportunities, from interactions with brothers and sisters in the same classes, to members of the same organization who work together, to simply just the people you form the strongest bonds with and just enjoy spending your time with, your closest friends. One of the main purposes of fraternities and sororities is to foster relationships between members. Not only does Greek Life improve social wellness while in school, it also affects student graduation rates and leads to greater success after graduation. As institutions work toward improving their graduation rates, it is important to note that research has shown that students who are involved in activities and experiences on campus are more likely to make it all the way to graduation and report a higher level of satisfaction with their overall college experience. I want to circle back to that networking opportunities provided by these organizations again, but now with a post-grad lens. Many of you have more than likely heard the phrase, "It's not about what you know, it's about who you know," which isn't entirely false, as many of us can attest to. Because each of these organizations has multiple chapters across the country and some even internationally, it provides so many opportunities for connections as recent grads get into the quote-unquote real world. Since these organizations are so important to the social wellness of students, the Greek community had to find ways to continue their activities with modifications to adhere to the set county and university guidelines. There are two easy ways to break down the adaptations Greek life has made to its events: in-person adaptations and virtual adaptations. So starting with in-person events, there are two main guidelines members needed to stick to: physical distancing and wearing a mask at all times. This is a photo taken at an event put on by my sorority on October 10th of this year. Now, clearly, this does not show the members adhering to the 6-foot minimum physical distance requirement, but they are, however, each wearing an appropriate mask and wearing them correctly. By that I mean all of their mouths and noses are being covered, which is a guideline most have done a fine job adhering to. There's actually one other in-person guideline I forgot to mention that I think should just be noted briefly, which is the 50-person minimum for events. This was fine for some of the smaller fraternities, but was rather difficult for sororities whose numbers were anywhere between 150 to 200 members, meaning events were typically done by signing up for a specific time slot. The events were longer than usual, and then you ended up seeing less people than normal. If leaders wanted to put on an event for their whole chapter at once, or for just more than 50 people at a time, there was also the option of hosting the event virtually. This image here depicts 4 roommates from 3 different sororities with laptops in hand, prepared for a heavily virtual school and Greek experience. The first option for virtual events was to use a social media platform. For example, many groups did a bulk of their philanthropic fundraising through Instagram, where members could post and share graphics showing how much money they had raised and create friendly competition between each other. This adaptation, though fun and very laid back, really didn't allow for much real social interaction. We feel a lot less connected to words typed on a screen than we do to seeing the faces and hearing the voices of our friends. That being said, another option for virtual events was to do video conference calling. Popular here at Boise State has been the program Zoom, which has been used during formal Panhellenic Council recruitment process, weekly chapter meetings, rituals, and random sister and brotherhoods here and there. It's important to note that although being able to see the faces and hear the voices of fellow members is an improvement from the previous option, this adaptation still leaves members feeling disconnected from their organization. Unfortunately, these adaptations are just that. They're adaptations. They're not the same as before the pandemic, and honestly, that has had a negative impact on some of our Greek students. The negative impact students are facing is burnout. According to helpguide.org, burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress, which occurs when one feels overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. I'll be the first to admit these virtual events, which have been far more frequent than the in-person ones, feel like a bit of a chore to attend. After a long day of already staring at my computer for work, classes, and homework, frankly, one of the last things I want to do is stare at my screen for another hour to attend an event I likely won't be very mentally present for anyway. Ever heard the saying, you get out of it what you put into it? Well, that saying definitely applies to Greek life. Members who continually skip out on events and are not mentally present at the ones they do go to are oftentimes the ones who end up dropping out of the chapter because they don't feel they're getting anything out of it. So what can or should we do about this burnout? What can we do to encourage members to put more into their experience in order to get more out of it when a lot of them already feel like they're giving what they have the capacity to right now? I suggest that we rekindle the spark of passion these students have for their organizations. One way to reignite passion is to encourage members to run or apply for leadership roles within their chapter. Now, this tactic could be a little risky because it does have the potential to speed up the burnout of students, but I think if they're willing to try, it's worth the risk. Their willingness to try indicates a desire to want to get more out of their experience. I know for me personally, taking on a rather big leadership role though it had its fair share of both highs and lows, left me feeling so fulfilled and valued in my sorority. Another, arguably more easily obtainable option is to encourage members to take the time to reflect on their organization's mission, purpose, vision, and values. It will almost definitely help to reignite that drive they have for their chapter. For example, according to the official website of my sorority, quote, "The vision of Alpha Sigma Alpha is to cultivate values and ideals in women who are known for their character and concern for others. Alpha Sigma Alpha encourages women to lead, to serve, and most of all, to make a difference." End quote. I mean, come on, how powerful is that? Taking some time to reflect on this, the values my sorority holds dear, and looking at our purpose have reminded me both why I chose to join this organization and why I'm still in it. It gives me that needed boost of energy and passion for an organization that is so important to me. Greek life has done their best to adapt to life in a global pandemic. These adaptations have done all they can, and in order for Greek life to continue to thrive, it's important for members to rekindle their sparks of passion. Members need to go back to the roots of their organizations to remember the mission, purpose, vision, and values in order to help each other feel less lonely, more connected, and hopeful again. Sometimes a video presentation from a college senior doesn't provide you with all the information or help that you need. If you're struggling with excessive burnout and want to seek professional help, please consider utilizing our university counseling services. You can find more information by visiting boisestate.edu/healthservices/counseling. If you're concerned for someone that you know who you think could benefit from these services as well, but you don't really feel comfortable having that conversation with them, you can submit an anonymous care report to campus professionals who can reach out to that person for you. For more information on these care reports and for information on how to submit one, visit boisestate.edu/care. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us via email at wellness@boisestate.edu. You can also find us on Instagram at Boise State Health Services. And thank you for joining us today.